Hello everyone, Trish Triumpho Sullivan here with our lecture about art. That's assignment number 9 in Photo 1, Introduction to Photography. And this is about making art with your camera, not taking a picture of somebody else's art, okay? You want to make art with your camera. In other words, the photograph that you create, your creation, is art by itself, in and of itself. It follows the rules of good composition, has really dramatic, interesting lighting, and has some visual interest that makes people want to look at it over and over again. And that is what makes good art. But there's some other things too. So let's talk about that. So first of all, let's answer the question, what is art? Right? What does art mean to you? Think about what our world would be like without art. First of all, I want you to kind of think about that. We talked about what our world would be like without photography. Well, imagine what it would be like without art, if there was no art at all in the world, any kind of art. So what would that look like? Wow. Pretty boring, pretty sad, right? Yeah, just not a good place to be, in my opinion. So I can't even imagine a world without art, and it's a pretty interesting thing. But let's ask ourselves what art means to you. When you think of that word art, what does it mean? And in a normal class where we're in the classroom, this is a question I ask you guys. I'll say, hey, so what is art? What does it mean to you? And I have people say all kinds of different things. It's painting, it's sculpture, it's creativity, it's color, it has meaning, it's your personal story, it's therapy. There's just so many different meanings of art that, and to each person, it maybe has a different meaning. So let's talk about that a little bit. So I'm going to ask you a question. Is this art? Well, it could be. I just made this. I'm going to put it on a pedestal under glass in a museum, and I'm going to call it crumpled paper number 5. Right? I think I could probably charge at least, I don't know, $2,000. Or I could just say that it's some recycling and I'm going to put it in the recycling bin. Okay, so a lot of times we think of art as the intention of the artist. So if I intended that piece of paper to be a sculpture, then it's a sculpture. I've created a sculpture out of a piece of paper. Is it something as simple as crumpling a piece of paper up? No. Usually a lot more thought and effort and creativity goes into creating an artwork. Even one that may seem like it's not that artsy, right? So let's talk about that for just a sec. The dictionary has their definition. I'm going to read it to you really quick. It says that it's the expression or application of creative skill and imagination, especially through a visual medium, such as painting, sculpture, or photography. Okay, so that's the dictionary definition. In our book, it would say a work of art is the visual expression of an idea or experience formed with skill through the use of a medium. And in our case, our medium is photography. Okay, so that's the medium that we're using to give a visual expression, all right, of an idea or an experience that's formed with skill. So that means the skill that you have is what we've been learning in class, right? Good composition rules, like that rule of thirds, right? Good lighting, how to use that dramatic early morning or late afternoon light. And if you haven't watched the video Mountain Light with Galen Rowell, you need to watch it. He's talking about light through that whole time, and it'll help you a lot. So, and a medium in art is a material used to create art along with its accompanying technique. So for us, the material is a photograph and the technique is photography, right? And we've learned the technical skills we need, how to work our cameras properly to get those effects. So what is art used for? So let's talk about that. So art communicates information. Okay, when we look back in the day, when most people were illiterate, they couldn't read or write. We didn't have the internet, obviously. The artists used in the church, the religious institutions used art to communicate with the people. In some cases, they would have Bible stories told through art. Art is used in day-to-day living, right? Every day we use art. Video games are a form of art, right? Buildings, architecture are a form of art. Furniture, even the clothes we're wearing, someone had to design those and make those, so they're a form of art. And we're making this creative decision every day of what to wear and our own personal style that we use. So art is used for worship and rituals. Murals, stained glass windows, mosaics, altars, even gravestones are a form of art. And art provides personal expression, like we're talking about, choosing our clothes or choosing the car that we drive, or just how we decorate our room or our house, our garden, whatever it is, it's a form of personal expression. And it can be that we're creating our own art, right? Our own personal expression, in this case for photography, right? And art supports and promotes social causes. And we talked about this a little bit about how photographs can change the world, can change what's happening. Well, look at what's happening in our world right now with Black Lives Matter. It wasn't a photograph, but it was a video, which is a form of photography, right? That got all this started. So photographs and art create social change. That's pretty deep, isn't it? Yeah, so we're powerful people. We can, with the photograph, we can do a lot. A good example of art creating social change would be Manuel Alvarez Bravo's photograph of the murdered strike worker, the striking worker in Mexico. And he was unfortunately murdered by government troops. But that photograph that Bravo took was game changing for the Mexican people to bring awareness to that cause. And art can be simply just for visual delight, just the pure joy and beauty of looking at it, right? And that's often what it is. That's what it's about. And art has been around since the beginning of humans. One of the humans have always had a need to be creative. In fact, the archaeologists and anthropologists know that there have been humans present when they find evidence of art. So it's something that's tied deeply to our very beings. We have to create. We have to be creative. And even people who say that they're not creative, hey, they're still making artistic choices every day. So they may not realize that they're creative. So art can be used for a lot of different things. In this particular instance, we're going to talk about art as making a little bit of a statement. But here's what I want. I really want to get the point I really want to get across is that good art, okay, good art should evoke emotion. So, what does that mean? Well, what it means is that when you experience art, one of the things that it should do is a good piece of art should evoke some kind of emotion in you. It could be anger. such as the George Floyd, Mr. Floyd murder on the videotape. It could be joy. It could be fear. It could be sadness. We looked at that photograph of Migrant Mother by Dorothea Lange. It really, it really evokes a sense of sadness and even despair. You can see how she's feeling and empathize with that. So a good piece of art should evoke some kind of emotion. And I'll give you an example of how emotional it can really be. There was a painting by the name of Cathedra, and it was a big painting, a kind of wall-size painting, and just basically blue. There was not a lot of detail in there. It was just like a blue canvas. And the artist decided to make this as a meditation and kind of thinking about the concept of God and how God is all around us, and that our earth is a cathedral and the blue sky would be the roof, and that would, you could worship anywhere. And that was his thinking of the artist. It comes from the Greek word kathera, which means like a throne, and he was talking about like a meditation of God, like being on the throne and up in heaven, right? Well, one viewer was so upset with this because it went against his thought about what religion should be and how God should be worshipped, that he took a knife and went into the museum where this painting was being displayed, and he slashed up the painting. And he did quite a bit of damage. I mean, in the millions of dollars. I think it took 7 years to repair the painting, but they did repair it and restore it and put it back. But in the meantime, the man was convicted of, felony destruction of property and was actually sentenced to prison. Like, he spent some years in prison for doing this millions of dollars of damage to an artwork. So that's some pretty powerful emotion, wouldn't you say? Wow, I mean, to be that upset that you're going to destroy it and risk years in prison. I mean, that's pretty steep for me. I mean, wow. So I just want you to really think about this. So whatever photograph that you take should evoke some kind of emotion, right? It could just be pure joy, could be happiness, but some kind of emotion. So let's look at some examples, and we'll see you in that next half of the lecture.